Right, there we are. Right, good evening, and good evening.
Hi, Stanley.
Hour. It is Power Hour on the Perfect Balance Fund page. If this is the first time you're joining us, this is a program that deals with all matters running and all matters for runners. We do bring in, lots of guests here to talk about the different subjects and issues facing runners and running. Today, I'm joined by Jane Dixon and Sabrina Bakare.
Hi.
Welcome, ladies.
Hi, thank you for having us.
Hi, Stanley.
It's a pleasure, my pleasure indeed. Jane and Sabrina are a perfect combination. I just had to bring them in because of their journey. I've been fortunate enough to have seen and watched them on this long journey that they've had. And so it's a pleasure that, I thought I'd bring them in and get them to share some of their experiences with many other juniors out there and many other coaches out there and many other parents out there. I'll start with you, Jen. Would you like to introduce yourself, please?
Hi, I'm Jane Dixon. I've coached Sabrina since she was about 11 years old. I have been in and out of schools all over Luton and Dunstable, coaching a wide variety of athletes, but obviously my passion is 400 meters. When Sabrina came to me, she told me she was a high jumper. I was like, yeah, of course you are. So, it's I coach mainly out of Luton, but most of my athletes now run for Shaftesbury Barnet. So
brilliant. How about you, Sabrina?
And yeah, I'm a former World Youth 400 meter champion. And before that and after that, I've medaled at nationals for age groups and stuff. So yeah, that's me.
Oh, that's a good one. That's brilliant. Tell me, there will be junior athletes there, that we want to find out, how did it start? How did it start for you, Sabrina?
Okay, so when I was younger, I've always just liked sports in general. And I remember my earliest memory was when I was in year 3. This was when I lived in London. And I was racing the year 6 boys on the field, and I remember beating them. So I was like, oh, okay, I'm pretty fast. And then from then on, I'd always take part in different sports. So netball, football, rounders, everything. Yeah. And then it got to around about, was it year 7? And we got invited to this thing called Gifted and Talented. And we was invited to the track. And every Tuesday in the summer, we'd take part in different athletic events. So I really liked high jump, and I liked running fast as well. And that's when I got introduced to you by Katrina. And yeah, I'd attend this athletics sessions through school, and then they encouraged me to join Luton Athletic Club. And that's when I'd go to Jane once a week, and I'd do all my sprint training and stuff with Jane. And then I used to get coached by this guy called Frank, and that's when I did high jump with him. And then I think I got a little bit of an injury, didn't I? And with the high jump, so we kind of put that to bed, and I kind of focused on sprinting full time. And at that point, I think I was only training twice a week, 3 times a week.
Well, 3 times.
3 times a week back
once
then.
In the weekend, twice in the week.
Yeah, and then that's kind of how I progressed. And we were doing well at South of England, indoors and outdoors, at national age group champs, indoors and outdoors. And I started off doing 200s. I remember I came second at English schools in 2010 in Birmingham. And yeah, we just kind of progressed from there, really. I went up to 300s the following year, did that for 2 years. And then the natural progression for us, because in training, I was pretty strong. I had quite good speed endurance. And so the natural progression was just to move up to the 4s. And then just got better and better from there.
Indeed. Jen, how did your passion for coaching start? What's your journey like today?
I actually I've been involved with athletics all my life, very sporty family. And when my daughter she was a triple jumper. So I was at the side of the pit raking like all parents do, you know, there every week, in and out, back breaking and whatnot. She did quite well. She went to English schools, did national championships. I had and always have had a lot to say. So, you know, my friend said to me, look, you know so much, why don't you get into coaching? I was like, oh, I don't know about that. She's like, no. So she encouraged me an awful lot. So I did my coaching levels 1 and 2 and started up my own group, mainly jumpers initially. Then I went and did my speed part of the level 2. And I actually quite liked that. Because I didn't have to rake the pit. It was a lot less energetic on the back and things like that. So I was asked then to do this gifted and talented group that came up from all the Luton schools on a Tuesday evening, and I was asked to do the runs. So I said, yeah, absolutely, do this. And all the schools in Luton would bring a maximum of, say, 15 kids up to Stockley Park. It was all run by Katrina Lewis, and she put us there, right, okay, you're doing sprints. And Sabrina and her little group of friends came along, and she told me straight away she didn't like running. She wants to do high jump. I was like, okay, fine. So go and run this, go and run that. And she did a few training sessions, and I think most weeks she told me, when are we doing high jump? When are we doing high jump? I was like, well, the high jump isn't out tonight, so we'll just do running. But you've got to be able to run before you can jump. You know? So, and we always thought Sabrina was quite tall until we went to an indoors at Lee Valley. Yeah. And she was one of the shortest girls there. I was like, oh, she'll never be a high jumper. She's much too short. So, and it was just after that she injured her takeoff leg. So I said, we haven't even got the right spikes for high jump, so we'll stick you at running. You know, you've got running spikes, we'll carry on just running. And then my group just progressed from there, and now they're all 400-meter runners. Well, they're not all. One's a 200-meter runner, but he really does need to come out as a 400-meter runner. But you know, yeah, he's in denial at the moment because of the training. It's harder. But yeah, so they're nearly all 400-meter runners now. So yeah.
Well done there. And how did your love? You say your group, all your athletes there are most of them now are 400-meter runners. How did you yourself, Jane, end up with 400 meters? The love for 400 meters run, was it in progression with working with Sabrina, or is it from your speed?
I think it was a bit of both, really. I did a lot of work with Luton Football Club, and they were. I used to make them do a lot of sort of 800s, 400s in training, special endurance and things like that. And this was at a time where Sabrina was probably a 200-meter runner. So in the transition there, I don't know really. I suppose, yes, Sabrina becoming a 400-meter champion really did progress me as a 400-meter coach. And then a lot of other people came to me from that. You can see people that have 100% speed, and you can see people that are very, very good athletes, and you know that they are going to be good athletes, but they're actually going to be endurance based, but they want to sprint. So the only thing there is a 400. You know, because you've got speed in there, which they love. And you know that they've got a bit of endurance in them. So, you know, I can remember Sabrina doing a piece for Athletics Weekly years ago, and she was asked, you know, so you've progressed from the, 15 strides or whatever of a high jump, whatever that was, to a 100 to a 200, and now you're doing 300. Are you going to eventually be an 800-meter runner?
No, I'm saying that for.
And that was her answer then. So I've never ever got her to do an 800. But it's I love the 400. Absolutely love it.
Yeah,
Really do. And I think once you love something.
yeah.
Pardon?
I'm going to ask you the same question that you were asked by Athletics Weekly many years ago.
Yeah.
Your transition from a high jumper to a world 400-meter junior champion.
Mm.
You know, in hindsight now, how did that? When did the lights come on to think that, no, I think I'm going to love this distance running. I think I'm going to love this particular event, and I'm going to go for it right all the way to a world championship podium finish. When did that happen? How did it happen?
I think when I look back on hindsight, I can't really think of a specific time where it hit me that I'm going to be a 400-meter runner, because I did enjoy sprinting. It was good fun. But I think naturally, because I was good in training and I had that good endurance base, I was pretty strong. It didn't seem to me that it was too hard to jump from like the high jump to the ones. And to be honest, I was doing the 100 and high jump at the same time, and then 200s, and it just seemed natural for us to just jump to the threes. I didn't know. Do you have a conversation about it? Or
there was a time at the indoors when at national indoors, and Sabrina did a 200 and a 300, and literally left. You come second in the two, and then literally didn't even go back to the call room. Literally went back to the side of the track and ran a 300. You know, and still medals at that.
I won that.
Won that. So it was just.
I think that we just showed that we're strong. And then because in the UK, obviously, we can only do 300s. Like, and in other countries, they might jump straight from the 200 to the 4. But we had them 2 years at under 17 level to do the 300s, and I loved the 300s. So much fun. Like, that is the ideal distance, if I'm being honest. But 300s were good fun, and then just 400s, and it just seemed like a natural progression. I don't know if like a young Sabrina doing high jump would have known she would have been a 400-meter runner, but it just seemed natural, and we kind of just worked with it as we went along, to be honest.
Okay. What would you say right now to, you know, other juniors and young athletes there who think, you know, the first day they walk onto the track, they say, this is the event that I want to do, and this is the event that I'm going to excel in? What would you say based on your own experiences?
I would say to them, keep their options open. With athletics, we're kind of like a late development sport anyway. So I think it's better to, because all the athletic events kind of build on your speed, on your endurance, on your power anyway. So I think it's really good for athletes to keep their mind open and try as many athletic events as they can. Like I said, I started off high jumping, but I was working my plyometrics then, I had the power then, and that is going to still help me in my 400 meters later down the line. And so I think, keeping your options open, trying as many events as possible, and that will give you like a good foundational base of all your basic skills that you need for every single event in track and field. So definitely keep your options open, guys.
Just because you start off in something, you know, I was listening to Anika Nora's podcast the other week, and you know, she was a definite sprinter and they went on to the 400. Just because you start off as a 100 or a 200 meter runner doesn't mean that's where you've got to stay. If you've progressed strongly at something else, take the chance, go in and do something else, see what it's like. You know, Sabrina still may want to be an 800 meter runner. Or not.
Or not.
I'm sure she's keeping that option open, shall we say?
You've got to keep all options open. Just never ever know. She might want to go back to 2s, you know. But you can't. Don't be blinkered. And even parents, don't be blinkered about your children. Just because your child is the best runner in his class at the 100, it doesn't mean he's got to do the 100 all the way through. Because if he's become stronger and fitter, and he's better then at the 2, and he runs a really good bend, you know, let him progress into the 2. Blue ribbon events, 100 meters, fantastic, but you can't beat a great 400 meter runner.
There we go. I'm converted for that one. No, brilliant. Now tell us about the year of the world title. How did that go? How did you go about it? You know, both of you, you know, Sabrina, from your training, from your goals, your training goals, and the competitions that you decided to put in your way to develop that? Jane, from all the planning, how did it go and how did it all come together?
Well, I think, to be quite honest, I think we were both very, very naive at that time, you know, and English schools and nationals were the be all and end all. Yeah. We didn't know too much. We sit down now in January and again in April and go through what we're going to do. We didn't really do that then. It was a case of, oh, you know, we've got to get to English schools. We've got to do this. We've got to do the nationals at the end of August. And they were our main focus. And then you got a phone call from Scott.
Yeah. And what did I do there? Because
you did the UK school games as well, and you got a high jump, and you had to do 2 events: high jump.
Oh and the 400. I did SF schools. That was
right.
Yeah, just
okay.
Before.
So you know, these things sort of came upon us, and then it was like, oh, okay, so that's really important. So yeah, we'll focus on that a bit, and then we'll focus on that. So it sort of happened for us, really. You know, I'm not going to pretend that I was out there and going, oh yeah, this will happen and that will happen, because as I say, I was so naive to it as well. Know a lot more now about the process. I mean, I had a phone call out the blue saying, you know, Sabrina's going to be selected. You know, you mustn't say anything, but and I was like, oh wow, you know, it was because it was all so brand new. But go with it as far as any coach. Ask questions. I mean, I know we came to you for a couple of training sessions at Lee Valley and sports things, and ask as many people questions as you can.
Yeah,
you know, it does help.
Absolutely.
In there, ask them.
Yeah. No, brilliant for that one. Sabrina, I'm going to come back to you now. Do you remember the race itself? You know, the race. The race that got you the gold medal from Great Britain.
I do.
Would you like to through it? You know?
Yeah, definitely.
From the ballroom, from the warm-up area, right up to the podium itself. Could you just share the feeling there? Yeah.
So I can talk from the beginning. So I remember coming into the race. I think at our England Championships, I had just broken 54 seconds. So I run like 53.98. And so to go sub 54 was a really big deal for us at the time. And then I've gone in and I think I'm ranked 8th in the world at that time. But I always remember saying, like, I didn't really want to focus too much on my ranking, because as you know, with championships, you go in and it's almost like a blank slate, because everyone comes there. Like, you can't bank on times because it all just happens fresh at championships. So I just went in, and this was the first competition I hadn't been with my mom or Jane. So they were just over the phone because this was in Ukraine, in Donetsk at the time. And literally, it was just like going through the motions, taking each round as it come. And I remember before my final, because I PB'd every round, and so it was in really good spirits. I felt great. And I remember for my final, I saw my lane draw, and I was in must have been lane 3. There was a Jamaican girl in lane 4, and then the American. Oh no, sorry, I was in the middle. So there's somebody on the inside of me that was like really, really fast, probably second ranked in the world, and there was an American girl on the outside of me. And I spoke to Jane, and I was really, really, really nervous. And I was in my hotel room, and Jane just said, "What did she say? Turn off the lights."
So she was sitting there. She said it was really, really hot, and she said, "But I'm just so nervous." I said, "Why are you nervous?" And she's like, "Jane, I'm going to be running against the best girl in the world, and the best girl is second in the world." And I was like, "Yeah." And last week at Loughborough International, when it was, you know, a few weeks ago, you ran against Perry Shakes Drayton. She's like, "Oh yeah." I said, "So what's she? You know, she's not a little girl that's the best in the world. She's like the superstar. She's like, you know, somebody that you've looked up to all your life, type of thing." And she went, "Oh yeah." I said, "You weren't nervous then, were you?" She went, "No." Well, don't be nervous now. Just get out and do your job. Stay in the dark, stay in the cool, because it was so hot.
It was so hot, it was.
And you know, just focus on what you've got to do.
Yeah, and that's literally what I did. So I was in the warm-up area, and that's when I was with Scott the whole time. And it was literally just focused on what I had to do, going through my warm-up, not paying attention to any other athletes. And I don't think I was using music at that time. Like I warm up with earphones now, but back then I didn't. So I was literally just me and my thoughts and just saying, come on, Sabrina, you can do this. I talk to myself quite a lot and give myself like positive affirmations and just say, come on, Sabrina, you can do this, you can do this. And I remember we all from the track, the warm-up track, you had to go to the stadium. So it was all in like the minibus. And could you imagine your competitors are like this close to you, and I'm trying not to make any eye contact. I know I'm just looking down at the floor because I don't want to just think about anybody else.
Yeah.
Go on to the start line now, and as soon as they set you off and you're into your blocks, like all of the nerves just vanish. And I just knew, just get out hard, Sabrina, but stick to the race plan. And my strengths then, we knew we were strong. So I just had to get out and just think about myself, don't think about anybody else. And the back straight was nice, everything was good. And I remember the top bend, so the 300 mark, all of us were almost level. Coming off the bend, all of us were level. So there's 4 of us. And just running. I didn't want to tense up. I just focused on my technique. And then somehow I just pulled away. And I crossed the line in first place. And it was so surreal because I think I knew I won, but then I looked over and I saw the clock and it was 52.77. And I was like, oh my goodness, like I've run this and made like almost a second quicker than I entered the competition with. And it was great. It was a really, really, really good feeling. And there was cameras and everyone was shouting and I could see like my like peers and stuff in the crowd. And it was good times. It really was.
It was, yeah.
Wasn't
Jane,
like that back in England.
Yeah, I remember because I think I met Jane at the same time, around that time, and she shared regarding the nerves, I think the night before the competition itself. Now, what is when back to you, Sabrina, after Jane had spoken to you and gave you the comparison of having run against Perry Sheets.
Yes.
What did that do to your mind? What did it do for you? How did it make you feel resourceful enough to be able to deal with the challenge of these peers that you were with on the race? What happened?
I think it kind of just put things in perspective for me. Yeah, because I had raced someone like Perry, someone who I'd looked up to, someone who's gone to European Championships or Championships. Like at that point, I think she went to London as well. Yeah. It was like I've raced against Perry, and so why am I so fearful of racing against people my age? And at the end of the day, we are all in the same boat now. Like they're no better than I am. We've all made the final. What am I getting so nervous about? So Jane just made me feel a sense of calm and put things in perspective for me and was like, don't make this such of a big of a deal. You've got here by right and it's your time to shine kind of thing. And so that made me feel like, okay, I can actually do this. I can do this because we've shown that we can. So yeah, it was really like putting things in perspective for me, not worrying about these girls that are my age when I've raced people of such a good caliber anyway. Yeah, that's kind of what it did for me. And it really made me feel calm. And I guess it paid off.
Yeah. Jen, how much of that, to be able to say the right words, at the right time, how did you come up with that, to be able to know that if I advise Sabrina in this way, all her concerns and all her apprehensions, she would be able to manage that? How did that come about on your part?
Well, having known Sabrina at that time for quite a while anyway, knowing how her mind works, knowing that she's a big believer in the mind game, if you like. I mean, even now, she went on to university and got a first in psychology. So it's all about how her mind is set. And going into something with a complete blank canvas. I get really nervous. She knows I get really nervous, but around her, I know I mustn't be at all nervous. And it's more or less a case of not telling her off, but asking the question, why are you so nervous? What makes them so much better than you? You know, what if they worked harder than you? Are they better than you? Are they this? And that sort of spikes her a little bit, gets her back up. No, they're not better than me. You know, well, why are you worried about them? You know, you raced against somebody that's a complete all-star. So now you're going to go and run against little girls, and you're telling me you're nervous. Why? You know, why? And so she can't answer that because there is no reasoning for that. So it just became, instead of being the World Youth Championship, it just became a race. Sabrina will know, and I often say it to her, when she was under 17, we had the last race of the season at Bury St Edmunds in a EYAL final. Or EAL final, whatever. Anyway, she'd gone on the coach, and I'd driven down to Bury St Edmunds, and she's all happy, and it was a lovely day. And she came over to me and she said, so as it's the last race of the season, shall I just jog it? And I just looked at her and said, so I've driven all the way to Bury St Edmunds for you to jog a 300. I don't think so, do you? And she went, no. And that was it. And she sort of walked off, ran a PB.
I ran a PB that day.
And did that take you above Rachel? Yeah. So that made her finish ranked number 1 in the UK on that for a 300 in that year. But you know, so again, it's mind games with Sabrina sometimes. You know, it's saying the right thing, getting her mind to go, no, you're not going to jog it. It's stupid. Who are these girls? Who are they? I don't even know what their names are. You know, so why are you worried about them? And then it builds her confidence up. So that's just knowing the athlete, I think.
And having that relationship and been working together for X amount of years beforehand, I think.
That's the point. That's the point. Well done for that. Well done. That's the point that I really wanted to come out, that it's because of the relationship and the nature of the relationship that you have as athlete and coach. Otherwise, it would be difficult for the coach, for Jane, to be able to pick up the right words that you need to bring about the right behavior for you to excel. So that's where, I thought that's a fantastic relationship there. And also for you, Sabrina, to be able to take Jane's advice, you know, with the sort of attention and belief that you took it. I think that in itself can only come about because you trust those words.
Literally, that's it. Like, when you trust your coach and you know they have your best interests at heart, you are going to listen and take on what they're saying for truth and know it's coming from a genuine place. I think it's only if you have that relationship, and not because not any other coach could probably call me and say them things to me and get my mind in a state where I'm able to perform like that.
But it was fate as well. I mean, I had no idea when I called that she was sitting in the room on her own, feeling that nervous. I think you'd already spoke to Mum, hadn't you?
Mum,
and I think Mum had, I'd spoke to Mum, so I'm very, very close to Sabrina's mum as well. And you know, it was just fate as well. A lot of it has to do with fate coming through. I rang her at that moment, and she could talk and let me know her feelings. There was nobody else in the room with her. You know, so we were lucky there.
No, great job. Let's talk about your technique and your technique training. Sabrina, you mentioned there that in that race where you won the world championships, as you were coming into the home straight, 4 of you were almost level. But you mentioned something very important, critical there. You said you kept your technique, you kept your form, and that allowed you to pull away from it. Right. What I like to understand, and I like both of you, to just zero in on a bit, is what had you done, to allow for Sabrina, for you to have that technique, to be able to keep your form when everybody else was dying around you?
Okay, should I go first? Yeah, so in training, I remember a lot of the time we'd do like scenarios where under fatigue, I would have to keep my form. So say end reps and stuff, we'd have the whole session and then we'd end on a fast rep. But the key thing was to keep your form, because as we know, who's a great example of this, Christina Horogu, somebody I look up to, she would always keep her form. And when you see the other athletes dying, it's as if she's speeding up. But what she is doing, she's holding her form. And so while everybody's decelerating and the technique is going out the window, that's how they're slowing down. And all she would do was keep her technique, keep her form, and it looks like she's just going forward. And so a lot of time we watch race videos, we'd set up scenarios in training where under fatigue, I still have to keep my form. And we'd watch videos back and Jane would say to me, like, make sure you like keep your knees high and don't tense up. So yeah, a lot of that was just in training, preparing myself for when it hurts, how to keep strong and how to keep good form. And we've always practiced that, haven't we?
Yeah, I think one of the big things, because I think it was the year before or 2 years before at English schools, and Sabrina came off the bench, she was, you know, way out in front type of thing, and all of a sudden it was, you know, the lactic sniper got her, and she was going backwards. And Rachel
Dickens and another girl,
and I felt, and Sabrina was just swimming the last, you know, and that is where races in the 400 meters, 300 meters are actually won and lost. It is, you know, what you're holding on to, keeping your knee drive, keeping big, fast, strong arms, and getting that contact off the floor. We've done a lot of training throughout the winter. I've been called an awful lot of names at the Luton schools cross country and things like that, where she didn't like that.
No, because we did endurance work just so I was strong.
You know, so it is these last stages. If you can hold on to that form, and don't race the race. I know you've got to go from the beginning, but don't race it from the beginning. Race it to your strength. Not to the race. You know, everyone knows you've got to get out first, fast at the beginning, because that's when you've got all your energy. But you know, not save. I don't think you've got to save anything, but you've just got to know, and know your body, that you can come through that last bit of the race and really feel strong within your body.
Which brings me now to injuries, and how have you experienced any injuries in the season, and how have you managed them between the two of you? Because athletics, unfortunately, by its very nature, does attract injuries. Would you like to share what's going on in that scene for you?
Yeah, sure. So my first major injury after the ankle one, after high jump, that was just a little one, so we can put that back. But the biggest one was 2012, and I had a hamstring injury in my left leg. And I think my last race I did at the Olympic Stadium, and that was UK School Games, and it was the last time I did a 300. And that was actually the year I was making the transition from a 300 meter athlete to the 400 meter athlete, as the next year was the World Youth Championships 2013. So that was the biggest one, and we were seeing physios. That time we seen quite a lot of people, wasn't we, trying to figure out what was going on with the hamstring. We had it taped up. I'd have treatment regularly, injections. And so that kind of, I feel like that point was kind of like, not the start of my injury journey, but that was my biggest injury. It was kind of, And although we rehabbed it and I was able to perform the next year at World Youths,
she was never injury-free.
I was never injury-free, and I haven't really been since. And so we managed it, but I wasn't really running 100% fit, unfortunately.
And technique suffered a lot because of the injury.
So that was 2012 hamstring. 2013, we kind of just went through the motions, managed it, was able to run, able to win World Youths. And then 2014, from the April, so just before the season started, the hamstring injury reoccurred. And with hamstring injuries, once you have one, the recurrence rate is quite high. And so I had problems, but luckily I was on funding from British Athletics. I was on the Futures program. And so we had like almost instant access to like British Athletic physios and doctors. And so that was very, very handy back then.
Went to Lee Valley,
Went to Lee Valley and saw a doctor, and we'd see him regularly for acupuncture. And I remember towards the end of 2014, so all throughout World Juniors the following year, I had it taped up just to manage the situation. Again, rehabbing, getting regular treatment, like physical therapy. And then we had like a saline injection solution. in the very high point of my hamstring tendon. So that was 2014. And then
that seemed to clear it, though, didn't it?
That did seem to put the hamstring at bay, which was good. So that kind of was the solution, the tick that we needed. And then in 2015, I had a stress fracture in my tibia. This might have been 2016, actually, wasn't it? Somewhere along the lines. 2015, 2016, I had a stress fracture in my tibia. And that was definitely the biggest injury I've ever had.
So that was at the
England Championships.
England Champs and at Bedford. And it was a horrible, horrible day.
Yeah.
Really, really wet. I think in the semi-final that they were in, 4 of them got disqualified. We ended up getting them all reinstated because on a technicality anyway, but they all got reinstated. And Sabrina was actually on the physio bed at the time, getting her ankle seen to, when she found out she got disqualified and when she found out she got reinstated. So Stuart McMillan, Stuart Butler. Stuart Butler was looking at her injury and he said, "Oh, come back and see me tomorrow then if you're reinstated, do it." So he said, "Yeah, if it's fine, if you want to run, absolutely fine," which you did.
Yeah, I did, because I felt okay.
Felt fine. Didn't run brilliantly.
I came sick, I remember.
But it was one of them. Okay, it's what it was, you know. Maybe with the stress of everything, the injury, the disqualification, the reinstatement. Had the Monday off, and then we were doing a yoga-y type Pilates session on the Tuesday. And then they started to do some drills, and I could see she's still limping. And I said, "Have you still got a problem with that foot?" She's like, "Yeah, it's still achy, it still hurts." So I'm like, right, okay, stop there. Now she was still on futures. So we spoke to Jo Jennings, who was in charge then, and she said, "Yeah, absolutely, go and see the doctor." So got on the train, didn't you? Next day, went up to London, and British athletics were brilliant then, weren't they?
Almost immediate. Everything
fantastic. So she got on the train, went up to see the doctor, and come back in a boot.
After MRI scan, it confirmed I had a stress fracture.
So, and it had been there for a little while. You know, but she had sort of run through it. And then really that took you out for the rest of that season, didn't it?
It did. And I was in the boot for let's say 8 weeks, was it? 8 to 10 weeks?
Longer than that.
10 weeks I was in the boot for. And I lost a lot of muscle mass off my calf.
The legs looked so different when she took the boot off at the end.
And that was kind of, took everything back to basics. I remember, because being so long in the boot, I wasn't putting my foot on the floor. And so you kind of lose like the proprioception in your feet. And that's kind of like how you place your foot on the ground. I had to kind of relearn how to navigate my way through with everything. And we didn't jog, so that hurt myself in the June, and I didn't start back again until the March of the following year. And I mean jogging was at a snail's pace. And so it was a lot of rehab and a lot of hard work.
I can remember our first 200 that she did. She said, "That was really good, wasn't it?" She said, that was quite fast. I like looked at the stopwatch and I went, "Yeah, it was 55 seconds." That was for a 200.
Yeah, that was in training, by the way.
But that was your very first one that you did, wasn't it? And she felt it was like okay because she was actually moving rather than just jogging.
And drilling. So that was the biggest injury, definitely.
Now with that experience, Sabrina and Jane as well, what advice would you give other young athletes? You know, I think the best thing is not to get injured.
If I would say,
what would you advise them regarding how to manage injuries?
I would say if you are injured, if you do get injured, make sure that you see the right people, get the injury sorted. Do not rush, because as a junior, as an under 23, you know, it's not as important as when you're a senior. Get the injury sorted properly. You know, don't let it come back to bite you in the bum or in the hamstring or the ankle or the Achilles or wherever later on. Get it sorted, rehab properly. I think coaches and junior athletes are impatient, you know, so you want them to get back on the track and do something and get there and whatever, but just take your time, because it will keep coming back otherwise, or something else will go. You know, take your time, rehab properly.
And I'd say to athletes is, when you do get injured, it's really, really easy to fall into, not, I wouldn't say feeling sorry for yourself, but feeling like demotivated, because it's only when you're hurt and you can't run, then you realize how much you want to run and how much you miss running and being with the group. And so my advice would just be to focus on getting your injury sorted. It isn't the end of the world. A lot of the top athletes have had injury issues. Like I said, it's the nature of our sport, and we're pushing our body to something that is not normal for us. And so you are going to have niggles here and there. You might get hurt here and there, but just be patient, and another one is don't compare yourself to other people as well. There was a time that I did quite a lot, and it was very, very draining, and I had quite negative feelings and stuff. And so I just say, focus on your own self. Everyone's journey is unique. You are your own person, and when the time will come, it will come. And so that's what I kind of learned through the injury process, is just focus on me, Sabrina. It will come good in the end.
Indeed. No, well done. Normally, usually rather, young athletes do struggle with nutrition, you know, what to eat, when to eat it. Yeah, what was that like? And what was that, Jane? What was
Sabrina was very, very good. We had a guy who was a GB athlete, Graham Beasley, who used to come and do talks on nutrition. Graham was a 200-meter runner, ran at Commonwealths and what have you up in Manchester, and he's part of the Luton track, and he was great. He'd come and talk to them and say, you should do this, you should do that. I've always wanted other people with their knowledge to come in and speak to the kids or athletes, and you might think 90% of what they say to you, oh, I knew it, I knew it, I knew that, anyway, it's rubbish, blah, blah, blah. But that 10% could be the difference, or 1% could be the difference in you becoming a world champion and not. And I can remember one of the first things that Graham was saying about was pizza and processed food, you know, biggest no-no going. And one of the big things to drink after sessions was milk. You know, you don't need, and people go, oh, I don't like milk, but it's not about what you like, it's about what's good for you. So, okay, you may not like milk, but you might like bananas, so you can make a shake, because I'm never going to encourage little kids to take protein drinks and all the rest of it, but you could make natural shakes, you know, and that be your way forward. But Graham was really good. And as I say, Sabrina would decide that when it came to New Year's Eve, her New Year's resolution wouldn't necessarily be, I'm going to give up something. It would also be, right, I'm going to drink, you know, 2 pints of milk after a training session or whatever. So mind you, you did give up biscuits and you gave up crisps and sweets. So she did give up a lot as well. But some athletes, you know, I had a young lad that trained at the same time as Sabrina, and his diet was awful. It was absolutely awful. So, but it is a massive part of training and a massive part of progression. Find out all you can. Find out all you can, because it's no good always the coach telling you, because if the athlete comes and says, oh, I found out that if I, you know, an apple a day, I'm going to run 400 3 seconds quicker, they'll be more inclined to do it because they've discovered that. You know, so I would always say, go and do a checklist of what's good, what's bad, and come up with something in the middle.
Yeah, well done. Rest and recovery is an important component of athlete development. How have you two handled that?
Again, it would be, so for example, sleep. I think the best thing for us is just to make sure all the basic hygiene factors are really, really good. So that's obviously your nutrition, and you're eating the right things, and you're not eating as much processed food, you're eating really good protein and good carbohydrates and stuff, and drinking a lot of water. And so when we're talking about the hygiene factors, that's your nutrition, that's your sleep, and obviously your water intake as well. In terms of managing, I think as I got older, I realize the importance of sleep and how important it is to have like consistent sleep patterns. And so going to sleep at 11, waking up at 8, and having a solid sleep pattern. So yeah, that's that. Just it is rest and recovery is the key, because you need to be able to, after a hard training session, come back again and not be so fatigued.
We brought swimming into it a lot as well.
Actually.
You know, because swimming was a great recovery where you're just, you know, you're still doing something. So for somebody that doesn't want to sit and recover and do nothing all day, go for a swim. Go for a swim, you know, and you feel as an athlete that you're doing something, but I know as a coach, you're doing something, but you're not putting the stresses on your body. And that's what it's about. It's the de-stressing the body on rest days.
And we've used treatment as well. So I regularly get therapy as well. And as you said before, like I'm really, really big on like your mental side as well. Because at the end of the day, a lot of us are really, really great athletes. A lot of us train really, really hard. But when it comes to things like on the start line and stuff, and how you manage your nerves and how you manage your stress, I think that's really, really important, if not as equal as important. So I do a lot of meditation and like mindfulness as well. And I feel like that's really calming, and it just allows me to like give myself some time to myself and shut off from the external world.
But you see, Sabrina sees Gordon Bosworth from the Bosworth Clinic. We were introduced to him through Ryan Freckleton at Oaklands, and Sabrina sees him regularly now, you know, at least once every two months, 8 weeks, because it's good maintenance. So it's sort of like a real little team. It's not just athlete and coach. There are other people in the team as well, you know, and he's kept her on straight and narrow, and I can't think, you know, they've been brilliant.
That's brilliant. Sabrina, transition from a junior to a senior. That's a very difficult landscape to negotiate. How have you done it? How are you coping?
I'd still like to think I'm on that transition. I wouldn't like to say I made that transition from a junior youth to a senior athlete. We always knew, and I've always told from young, that being a senior athlete is where it's at. So it's great that I did the World Youth Championships, and it's great that I had success as a youth and a junior. But what's more important is to be that great senior athlete and that successful senior athlete. And so at the moment, I think with a lot of the things that's happened, I have found it, if I'm being honest, quite difficult to make that transition from a junior athlete to a senior athlete. I am still in that transition stage, but we do believe that we can do it at a senior stage. And all it is just understanding that this is how my journey is happening. We have what we want in sight, and we just got to keep going and keep working at it, and not giving hope, not like giving up hope and stuff. So I'm still transitioning, but I believe that it can happen. We believe that it can happen. Got a good team around me, and I'm now in a place where I'm happy. And I think I've always said, like, a happy athlete is a faster athlete. And so as long as I'm happy and I'm good in what I'm doing, I think we can get there for sure.
There's a lot of stresses, I think, that the athlete has to endure at that time, because you have to live up to being that great junior youth athlete, you know, and being that good. I think subconsciously you put pressure on yourself, or other people put pressure on yourself, because, oh, why didn't she win that? You know, and all of a sudden, so you're going into your next race negatively. So you, as well, they've got university, they've got living on their own for the first time. There's so many different things that come along that are hurdles put in the way. And I think now, I mean, Sabrina's now back living at home where she is most happy. And, you know, parents are a fantastic input with her, you know, always been very, very supportive. So that is a happy place for her. She's back in a group where she loves being, you know, the boys torment her like crazy. And, you know, the way that she sort of repays them is by running off from them and, you know, trying to be ahead of them and things like that. So, you know, that's good as well. But the transition is still yet to happen. That full transition is yet to happen. But there's been a lot of positives that have happened through that journey.
Yeah, a lot. It's all about learning, and so that's the main thing.
Yeah, it is. If I may just squeeze in a little bit there, Sabrina, what specifically have you found as the biggest hurdles, within that phase of transition? What 2 or 3 obstacles have stood out for you?
Okay, so the first one would the initial pressure, I think, that I placed on myself. I know other people would, but like my close circle wouldn't allow me really to feel that much pressure from external people, but myself. Because I remember like, okay, now I've run this certain time, my next race I should PB, or I should run this certain time, because nothing underneath 52.77 is going to be good enough. So that was getting over that kind of, okay, you've run well, that's great, but it's kind of like building on it. You've got to carry it forward. So the initial pressure I put on myself was quite difficult. The second one was comparison. Like I said before, comparing myself to other athletes was something that kind of put me, I felt quite down about, because
it was a shadow.
Yeah, it did, because we were all at one stage all together, like a level playing field. And then I got injured, and some of my peers were making senior teams still as like 18, 19-year-olds. And I was just watching on the sidelines. At that point, when I'm saying like, you're quite jealous of the fact that they're doing it, but I soon realized that I'm just exerting energy and it's not doing anything for me. So yeah, I had to get over the comparison, obviously the injuries as well. So they were quite hard, making this transition phase, and moving away to university was another thing that I had to kind of navigate my way through, because I didn't go to a local university. I moved away, and so working with Jane remotely was something that I had to figure out as well. Yeah, it's been quite a few barriers, quite a few hurdles, but like I said before, you just learn from it, and as long as you keep the goal in sight and have belief and work hard still. He used to say, I can't make it as a great senior athlete.
Yeah. No, keep the faith there.
Yeah.
As long as you have identified those obstacles there, you always find ways to get resourceful to overcome them.
Yeah.
And with a good team on your side, Jane on your side, you definitely will be able to get there.
You're
right. Now, there is a challenge at the minute, which is the current pandemic situation, and that has brought, I'm sure, more than a few hurdles in your training plans. How are you coping?
To be fair, not too bad actually. So when I said I was in Loughborough, Jane and I had to figure out a way how she could still coach me. And so I'd follow the training program. We would call each other all the time. Jane and I constantly are texting each other or on the phone, talking about training, how I feel, how I responded to the training session, sending videos as well. Maybe I get my friends up there to video record me running. Jane will give me pointers and stuff. So we've managed to, that was kind of like back then, preparation for eventualities, just like how we are now. We're managing. Yeah, we're managing.
The biggest thing is obviously that the local track that we train at is closed.
Yeah.
And we don't know when it's going to open. Sabrina runs for Shaftesbury, and so do a few of my other athletes, and they've been great. And they opened 3 weeks ago.
Yeah.
So that I can take now 5 of them there for an hour and a half. And that's brilliant. That really, really is good. We've been so lucky with the weather. And other than that, we do a lot of work on grass. They do a lot of their gym stuff or plyometric strength stuff at home.
Yeah.
And we've also just been in contact, and we're waiting to hear back from him, from Liam George at the Movement Clinic, who we're hoping that maybe we can get in and use his gym. He's a private health club. So his gym actually isn't open yet, but then maybe that we can go in because it is a private club. I don't know. We'll have to wait and see. He's going to get back to us on, when and if. But you've got the bar and stuff at home, so she can do the box jumps. So you have been doing quite a bit.
So we've managed, and it's one of them ones where everybody's kind of in the same boat. And so instead of looking at this, it's like, we can't train. Yeah, you just got to adapt to the situation. And lucky for us, I think we've adapted pretty well.
Yeah,
definitely.
Yeah, we're getting close to the end of our talk show, but before we get to the end of it, I'd like you to really address the issue of strength and conditioning. Quickly between the two of you, how have you gone about, incorporating strength and conditioning in your training regime?
Okay, so over the years, I think I started gymming or having strength conditioning when I was about 16, 17, when I was working with Optimum with Chris. And I'd go maybe once or twice a week. And we knew, because obviously as an athlete, we're putting so much force through the ground when we're running. And so you've got to be strong, and your body has to be able to take that load. So the gym's really important for us, just to build a basic foundation, strength as well. Doing Olympic lifts is so the hang cleans and the snatches, power cleans, that will develop our power. And as a 400-meter athlete, the main thing for us is power endurance. And so a lot of stuff in the gym would mirror and reflect that. And that's where we can kind of lay the foundations and make sure we're strong. It's very important for us to keep everything conditioned and to keep my strength up and develop my power from the gym.
Yeah. Well, last two questions from me. First to you, Jane, and then I'll come to you, Sabrina, almost on the same question. If there's a coach there, a novice coach, and they've got this talent, before them, what would you advise them on how they should proceed? What would be your 1, 2, or 3 tips that you would give a coach that has got the talent on their hands, but maybe they don't feel they have got the big qualifications and the big brand, with them? What would you advise them?
Okay, first of all, I think you need to ask questions. Don't be thinking that people are going to think you're thick because you've asked questions. I didn't know an awful lot about strength and conditioning at all, gym work and things like that. I asked people, I found stuff out, I did all that. Also, honesty with the athlete. If you're honest with the athlete and the athlete is honest with you on so many different things. So it's I don't want it from the athlete. I don't want to do that. Okay, why don't you want to do that? Okay, let's find another way. And that is just a conversation between you two. You don't have to blag to the athlete. If there's something that Sabrina said, whatever, I said, okay, well, let's find it out. Let's, I don't know the answer to that, so honesty is massive. Find out, go together, work it out, and then they will begin to trust you more. The more trust that they have in you, the better they are going to perform for you. But as a coach, ask the questions. I was taken onto the national coaching program for England athletics for speed, and I used to sit there really quiet and just look around and sort of think initially, and then once I started asking the questions and I felt a lot more confident, I think it showed in my coaching.
Well done. Sabrina, what would you tell junior athletes? What are your 3 tips that you would give junior athletes that are there on the playground, that they've got talent, and you think they don't know what to do with it? What would you advise them? What tips would you give them?
The biggest tip I would say is, firstly, just go for it. Don't be afraid of anything. So if you don't try, you'd never know. So I'd always say, go for anything that you want to do. So if that is trying an 800 and you don't feel confident that you've got the endurance, just try it and see what happens. Because if you don't try, you'll never know. Yeah, you never know. The next thing I'd say is keep it fun as well. I know as a youngster, especially young, you can maybe get too caught up in competition and stuff, but the best athletic times I can remember is when the experience was fun. When I wasn't just so focused on results. It was just fun and going in with an open mind and loving the experience. And they're the best. That's probably the best performances I've had as well, when I'm the most happiest. And the last one is always believe. I always say anything is possible with hard work and a bit of self-belief. And so you can achieve your goals. You can do this. Remember, Usain Bolt was exactly the same child as you, with big hopes and dreams, and he just went for it. And so with a bit of hard work, consistency, and self-belief, anything becomes possible.
Indeed. I tell you what, you two have been super, and I'm sure our viewers, out there have enjoyed your journey, you sharing your journey. Lots of, useful stuff from your experiences there on very, very many topics there. I'd like to thank you on behalf of the viewers as well, for your openness.
Thank you for having us. I really, really appreciate it. Really
Thank
do.
you. Thank you for having us.
And then no problem. I'm sure we'll bring you back again at some point so we can look at hear more, especially on the transition when we see you back on the track there, Sabrina.
Yeah,
Meantime,
definitely.
take care and continue working hard. It's going to happen.
Thank you so much,
Stay
Stanley.
safe. Take care.
Thank
Bye bye,
you.
Stanley.
Bye.
Yeah. Bye bye. Bye bye from me.
Take care. Bye bye from us.
Thank you.